Hello, my name is Chuck Wolf. Over the years, I've worked in many different roles, including leading my own leadership consulting company since 1994. I've worked for and with some of the best companies and universities in the world, and have had the opportunity to work with government officials, military organizations, and public and private schools. I'm a leading expert and pioneer in emotional intelligence. Since 2009, I've been a volunteer hosting a radio show I created called The Emotion Roadmap: Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel. I really enjoy making a difference in people's lives. The show is on award-winning community radio station, WPKN in Bridgeport, Connecticut. In recent years, Simsbury Community Television has been sharing my shows on their station and on YouTube. My sincere hope is that everyone who watches regularly will learn how to use the Emotion Roadmap in their own lives by listening to people who call in to get help with challenges at work, home, and in communities. To learn more, go to www.emotionroadmap.com. If you have a comment or question, email me at cjwolf@cjwolf.com. Thank you and enjoy the show.
As I'm talking to you, I just want to just say that you're listening to the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And this is Chuck Wolf. And this is the first Wednesday of the month. I'm on the first and second Wednesdays of each month on WPKN 89.5 FM, listener-supported radio. And as you know, if you're a regular listener, first, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you want to call me, the number to call is 203-336-9756. And the show is about helping people deal with challenges in their life. Lots of times people who have challenging situations, tough decisions to make, some conflict in their lives that they haven't quite yet figured out how to handle, some choices to make where they're going to impact other people and they're worried about how other people might feel about those choices. There's lots of things in our lives that challenge us on multiple levels. And one of the most interesting things I found over my lifetime is that if you spend some time thinking about your emotions and how your emotions are impacting those circumstances that you find very challenging, that you haven't figured out a solution for yet, sometimes you can make magic happen by asking yourself a couple of questions. And the questions that make up the roadmap start with, what are you feeling? What exactly are you feeling? Can you identify and label it accurately to any degree? What exactly are you feeling? And sometimes when you're stuck and you're not sure how to proceed around any of these challenges that you might be facing, there's a question that comes after what are you feeling, which is, what would be ideal to feel? What would you really like to feel? And if you can answer that with some degree of success where, I'm feeling anxious and I want to feel calm or I want to feel confident, and you can figure out how to do that, sometimes that makes the options that you consider open up for you in ways that are not actually happening when you're not focused on the emotions. Sometimes we get so caught up in the context, we lose sight of how the feelings are impacting it. And one of the things I've learned over the years in this world of emotional intelligence is that our feelings have a direct impact on what we think and how we behave. And while we're not always aware of our feelings, what I mean by that is it's kind of like breathing, I think. If you run up a flight of steps, you're certainly aware of how you're breathing. But if I just ask you, have you noticed how you're breathing lately? Chances are you haven't, unless it's labored for some reason. Well, that's true about emotions too. Unless they're somewhat intense, we're not really thinking about them. And yet they're always there. It's like breathing. We always are feeling something. And those feelings have an impact. They have an impact on how we think and how we behave. And so for those of you who are regular listeners and you've been waiting to call in, I'll give you the number, 203-336-9756. And in saying that I'm here for you, those of you that are new to the show, that you want to understand how it works, I have people who call in and they ask for some help with something going on in their lives. And I walk them through these 4 questions that I call a roadmap, which starts with, how are you feeling? Then ask, what would be ideal to feel? And then how might you get from what you are feeling to what's ideal? And then as we consider a series of strategies, I ask you, well, of all those strategies, is there one that's best that you're actually willing and able to do? And then if you can answer, you got a strategy that works, you got what I call an emotion-based plan that has a fair degree of success of working. Like any plan, no plan's perfect. So not all plans work, but you'll walk away with a plan anyway. Or you'll answer or hang up the phone with the plan, whatever it is. But the goal is to try to be helpful to people, not just for each of you that might call, but for anybody that's listening, so that you have an awareness and an understanding of how this emotion roadmap works. So let me give you a minute just to see if anybody's just waiting to call. Again, I'm on the first and second Wednesdays, 12 to 1 p.m. I'm Chuck Wolf. This show is the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. We have so much more capability in terms of managing our emotions, whether we can actually change them at times or change the narrative when they show up, or even just block them for a period of time when they're not, they're particularly in the way of something that we need to get done, and what we're feeling is an obstacle at times. We should always recognize that our feelings are intended to be useful to us. Everything we feel is designed as as part of our evolution, as an evolutionary system to protect us, to help us, to make us aware of things that are happening so that we can build defenses accurately and effectively. So that's what they're there for. But once in a while, you might have a feeling that's based on something from a belief system that kicked in when you were a kid that isn't really relevant now, or you might just have something that's really bad that's happened to you in just the last few minutes and the last few days and maybe in the last month or so, and it's really impacting how you feel about certain things, and it's the way of getting things done that are important to you. And so you have to somehow find a way to either change that feeling for the moment or push it aside, create what I call an emotional firewall. So it's kind of like, keeping malicious content out while you're trying to get something done and you want to feel differently. And yet knowing that you're not repressing the feeling, you're going to have to deal with the feelings at some point, but maybe not in the moment. So anyway, the idea is that you call in, you get some support for whether there's something at work where you're having some struggles with some of the people at work or some decisions to make at work, or, maybe your company is asking you to move to another place and you're trying to decide, is that something you want to do? Because it has an impact if you say no to your company, but the impact may be somewhat negative on your family. So you got to, there's lots of things in life that become trade-offs, and it's not like there's one right decision sometimes, but there's maybe perhaps better decisions. And looking at the emotions that are in play of not just yourself, but anyone that's key. For instance, in a family move, if your son's just started high school, been in his first year in high school, has moved a lot, it's kind of insecure, and you've got another chance for a great job, but you got to move someplace else, and you're going to move your son into in his sophomore year, he's going to go to a new school, and it's going to start all over, and it's going to be really hard for him. Maybe it's not the best choice for your family and for you at that point. Those are the kind of questions that you struggle with yourself. Sometimes me acting as a sounding board, just playing it back to you, helping you to think it through, and also focusing on all the key people's feelings helps you to make a decision that you feel more comfortable with than you might otherwise. And in doing so and working with you around these questions, hopefully everybody listening is learning how to use this emotion roadmap. So again, let me give you the number, 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. And I'll wait a moment and see if anybody's got something that they'd like to call in and talk about. Well, there's no calls at the moment. So for all of those of you, the regular listeners, I hope life is good for you and you don't have a reason or a need to call. But I am going to ask you to call about this, because what we have coming up on this weekend is Mother's Day. And it's actually an interesting time for me because my dad actually passed away around the same time Mother's Day shows up, long time ago. But, I typically, on the anniversary of when he died, I remember him. I spent some time thinking about him. At the same time, I'm thinking about my mom, who's also since passed away, and she was alive a lot longer than he was. But In any case, both of them are gone now, but I do think a lot about them at different points, and certainly around the anniversary of my dad's death and certainly around Mother's Day. So one of the things that I've been thinking about is thinking about having a show that's dedicated to mothers. So I'm assuming that everybody listening to the show has a mother or had a mother at some point that did something right for them. And so if we can honor Mother's Day in my show today, I mean, I'm happy to answer again if anybody's got a challenging situation they'd like to talk about. The number, and I'll give it to you again because I do want to answer your calls if you got something, 203-336-9756. But if you don't have something you want to call about that's challenging you at the moment, can you call and share something special about your mom? And maybe think about, even if you don't call in, what you might do if your mom's still with us and you have a chance to do something nice for her coming up in the next, in the week ahead. Maybe actually on Mother's Day itself, but anything, around this time frame that just shows how much you appreciate everything that she's done for you. A lot of times we have a lot of challenges with our parents, and I get that lots of people's moms and dads had struggles and with them, but to the extent that we're all trying to do our best lots of the time. I got my first caller. Whoa, could you turn your radio down, please? Please turn your radio down. You got to turn your radio down or I can't hear you. Oh, they just hung up. Okay. Well, you're welcome to call back, but please, if you do call in, please turn your radio down. So otherwise it's just, it's a loud noise and that's what everybody just heard. So if you could call back, again, the number is 203-336-9756. And we're just looking to see if anybody's got something that they can share about something special about their mom. When I was a kid, my dad taught me this song. It was all the letters in the word mother. M is for the many things she gave us. O is that we know she's growing old. T are for the tears she shed to save us. H is that her heart is filled with gold. E is for her eyes that love light shines on. R is that she's right, she'll always be. Put them all together, they spell mother, the word that means the world to me. And I always remember that song. My dad taught it to me. My dad used to love to sing. And I adored my mom and my dad, really. And they were special. I mean, not that they didn't make some mistakes, but of course I wasn't easy either. And that's true about relationships, isn't it? They're not easy. But when you love each other and even more than love, but adore one another, you put up with stuff. And one of the things that I learned early on in life when I was a young man growing up, and then later on a therapist and helping other young men and young women grow up and even people that were older, who were continually blaming things on their folks. If my mother didn't do da-da-da-da-da, or my dad. And I thought, at some point, you got to let go of the stuff that people didn't get right. And to the best of your ability, focus on what they did get right. Try to emulate the best parts of what whoever it was, by the way, you may not have been raised by your biological mom or your biological dad, but whoever raised you, and you consider mom or dad, let go of what didn't work and focus on the fact that they gave you their time, they gave you their best. It wasn't always enough, but they tried. And take the best from all of them and make that part of what's the best possible version of you. And let go of the past as best you can, where the things that they didn't do for you are holding you back. I think at some point you want to pick yourself up and say, you know what? I'm through with the blame game. It's time to be responsible and accountable for what I do going forward. It's about what I do going forward. It's my choices. Things influence me from the past, but I can learn from what's worked and what hasn't worked and be the best version of me. So again, if you've got something really nice to say about your mom, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to make this show about moms and Mother's Day. So could you give me a call? Anybody that's listening and you got something nice to say about your mom, and something you're thinking of doing for your mom, let me know. The number is 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. I got to believe there's somebody out there that's got something nice to say about their mom. 203-336-9756. And by the way, if you do call in, please turn your radio down so we don't have it disrupted. And, sometimes you just need that. I need that first person to make that phone call. So if you're thinking about it, please just do it. 203-336-9756. Whatever you say doesn't have to be perfect, but if it's something nice that you can share about moms, that'd be great. I'm going to answer the phone now. Please turn your radio down. Thanks. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Good afternoon, Chuck. It's Mark. And I was just going to say that, my mother, 90, is independent, living on her own, living her best life. And she's, in the coverage area. And she actually, we were raised on WPKN. And both my parents were a huge part of my, my childhood and my adult life. And you really, I can't say enough about them. So that has to be taken into consideration, in the bigger picture, that parents stay a part of your life long, hopefully for their entire life.
That's lovely, Mark. I'm glad that she. Is there something you're going to be doing on Mother's Day?
Well, I certainly will stop by and visit. But, one thing that she's doing for me right now is, she's planting sunflowers and getting seedlings started for me so I can put them on my farm and enjoy them later in the year. And that's just, and she'll do hundreds of these. But
that's great. I love sunflowers.
another note I would pass along to listeners is that, if you love your children, love their mother. And I tell that to my friends. I said, successful children are greatly influenced by successful parents. So, to everyone. And independence is also, you can't blame anybody else. You have to really look inside yourself. So that, success is personally grown, I think.
That's great.
But, mothers are a great part of our lives. And I certainly have a winner. So there you go. All right.
Thanks so much for the call, Mark. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Okay. Michelle.
Well, Michelle, thank you for waiting. I know you were waiting while I was talking to Mark. I appreciate it.
I was trying to listen to. I find your show so interesting.
Thank you.
I know relationships are important, and I know you want us to, catch how we feel. I have a sister who had a lot of power over me as we were growing up. She had monetarily power. I was a single parent, and she would give me money to my father. And she's never stopped that. And she thinks that she could tell me what to do. And I just find it, very condescending and insulting. And I just kind of leave. And then when she does things also materialistically, she is much better off economically than I am. And she would offer me jewelry, and then I would ask her, I said, no, that's okay. And then I would ask her for at one point just to borrow it. And she would give me, she would give me, she would attack me verbally about my daughter. And then I would have to just, go away, totally, I'm not going to stand for this. Yeah. So I was just wondering, after repeated times to try to, go back and not let it bother me, should I just tell her that what's going on with me, emotionally, that I feel like she's very controlling and manipulative? Now she threw me a text about an antique mirror, and it's a beautiful mirror. And we haven't talked for about a year because of the last incident. And or should I just leave it and just grieve the relationship?
Okay, so you have a couple of choices, Michelle. I first of all, there's not. I don't know for sure whether you should or shouldn't, but let me help you. Think that through. Okay.
Okay.
So one of the things that this is about how are you feeling, and then how do you want to feel, and how would you think your sister's feeling, and how do you want your sister to feel? So let's start with you. How are you feeling about this right now? I think I heard, but what do you think you're feeling?
Which I was really surprised at. I feel sad, and I feel that maybe I should say something. If it ends, it should be telling her like what she's doing wrong. Probably what she's telling me, I'm telling her. She's telling me I'm doing something wrong, and then I want to tell her she's doing something wrong. But it's more how she affects me. Not. I guess it must be issues growing up and how I.
Sure.
Left the family at an early age. It must be all of that. But maybe you're right. Maybe she does have feelings that I should ask her about. Like, are you feeling this, and this is why you're trying to control me? Or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe that.
No, I think I do. But let me stop you for a second and just say this. So you're the way it sounds like you're feeling is you're feeling sad, you said, about the relationship and where it's at. But you're also feeling somewhat dependent. Does that feel right to you to say that? That she's guided, she provided for you, she's taking care of you and giving you some things, but you're also somewhat, upset that she's still controlling, or at least trying to control what you do.
Right. I kind of want that mirror.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's right.
Maybe I have to go through that, but.
Okay. That's funny. Well, how do you think? And how do you think she's feeling about?
But it's not what the total thing is.
No, I understand that.
It just brought it to the fore.
Yeah. So the mirror is kind of an enticement to let's get connected again. So there's something. I mean, she could have just left. The relationship was over for a year, and all of a sudden you get a text that says, "Hey, I'm interested. I've got a mirror. Are you interested in it?" And it's like she's opening the door to. I'm missing you somehow, and I want to start a relationship, and this is the best way I know how to do that because in the past I've offered you things.
I hope so.
I mean, that's a possibility. But you were wondering, Michelle, you wondered, well, what makes the relationship like interdependent? Where, yeah, sure, you depend on her for some things, but you also feel like she respects you enough to depend on you on some stuff. And maybe the thing that she needs from you is a relationship with a sister. That's partly what she's missing in her life. And that's why she opened the door to this. And she's feeling a bit bad about that. That's all, I'm guessing that. But does that sound like it's possible?
Yes.
So then the question becomes, how do you show up and be less dependent, and yet at the same time, thank you very much, appreciate all the stuff, but the stuff, if you want to give me stuff, that's great, I appreciate it. You're in a great place to be able to do that, and I appreciate you doing something like that for me, but at the same time, I got to feel more respect from you. And I don't always feel that. And can we talk about that and see what that feels like to you and see if we can actually have a relationship that isn't just about you giving me things and telling me what to do?
Right.
I mean, is that what you want? I mean, I'm again, I just heard a little bit.
That's what I want. At the same time, I do feel she's making me feel dependent by, coming back. So.
Well, you have all these feelings mixed up inside you because you've been dependent for a long time, and you've taken these gifts and you've taken whatever money maybe was provided, and at the same time you kind of resented that she didn't really respect. It wasn't like she did this just out of love, and she said, "Hey, sis, I got something else that you can have. I think you'd like in here," and that's it. But there was strings attached. It felt like there was control with it, right?
Right. It's not like that, right? It's more like control.
So, and maybe that's what you want to, I mean, do you see any downside in having a conversation with her about it?
No, I think it opens the door for her to talk. Instead of, she would definitely attack me if I started telling her, I don't think respect is very general, so I think that would be great. I would probably be better off starting a conversation with that. But if I told her like how I was feeling before I talked to you, she would probably come back with an attack. You know what I mean? She's got probably emotionally a lot going on too.
I'm sure she does, and I'm sure it's if she hasn't talked to you for a year, and all of a sudden there's something missing for her too. And let me say one thing that just to be really aware of, if you are critical of her,
Yes.
it's likely to create defensiveness, and I don't think that's what you want.
No.
So if you can say, can I tell you how I'm feeling, and that I want to have a relationship with you where I feel respected. I know you care about me because you've demonstrated over the years that you've wanted to take care of me. And I feel like I want to feel respected by you. And she may say some things, well, if you want my respect, then here's what you have to do because that's who she is. And if you know that's coming and you let that pass, if you can, you know it's coming and just be prepared for it. And then say, okay, but that's kind of what I mean. I really don't want you telling me what I need to do. I'd love just catching up with you. How are you? What's going on in your family? Here's what's happening in my family. And if you have something that you want to give me and I want it and you just want to do that without talking to me about what I need to do different, I would love that. I would love to just have a relationship where you and I just talk on occasion, share what's going on in our lives, and really feel like sisters in a really positive way. I mean, does that sound like something you're capable of doing?
Yeah. But what did you call it? An emotional block?
No. I said
firewall.
I said an emotional firewall. Yeah. I said sometime.
I'm going to keep that vision.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to need.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. Because when she says that stuff to you, you want to be prepared for it, and you don't want to let that impact what you say next, because what you say next might mean that there's another year or two that the two of you don't talk.
It's going to be what is going to happen. She's very, Well,
but if you think about you're in control, you want to be in control, you want to show her you can be in control. This is a real test for you, Michelle. Can you want to show her you can be in control? Then be in control.
Right, and I want to tell her too. If it needs to end, I just want to tell her. Do you know what I mean?
Well. When you say it needs to end, if the two of you can't do what you're asking her to do, I don't know that you have to end it in this conversation.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to go into this conversation with hey, this is either going to end or we're going to change it. I mean, it's sort of either or, and it sets up. I mean, she's first hearing about what you and I are talking about. So I think for me, when you're asking somebody to change how they feel and how they deal with you, you got to give them a little time to think about it and figure out what they're going to do next. So I wouldn't leave it as an either or proposition. I just say, can I talk to you about how I'm feeling and how I hope you feel and what I hope is possible for the two of us? And ask if that's okay. And say, I don't mean to be critical of you because you've been great over all these years, but sometimes it feels like you want to control what's going on with me. And maybe because I left the house early, you've always felt you needed to do that. I don't know. But at this point, we're both adults, and I'd love to have an adult relationship with you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much.
Does that help?
I think I have to, try to do it adult to adult instead of just, not talking, because that leaves a lot of energy. And I know that relationships make people happy. It's the number one thing, right?
Yeah.
Relationships, like when we die, it's going to be our relationships, not our money, right?
Sure.
So that's why I think it needs to be done too.
Well, the thing to keep in mind then is that idea of an emotional firewall, the concept that I have for that is that there's some things that I can't really control how I feel when they happen, but I don't allow myself to feel anything about them. I just keep them, kind of like a virus that's trying to impact your computer. That's the way I think about this stuff. Malicious content trying to be harmful to me. And I'm trying to just keep it away. And I realize, and understand that that's likely to be her first response, because it's going to feel like a criticism coming from you, even though you're trying not to make it feel that way.
And that's how we've always, related before as well.
So understand that this is something that isn't just it isn't going to be great because you have one conversation, even if you both agree. But what you want to have happen is that, hey, look, anytime either one of us feels like the conversation's going the wrong way, let's be open with each other and just say that and see if we can get past it. Because you're trying to put all this stuff instead of in the background, like on the table. This is the stuff that's happened with us, and I want it to be better because I love you.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And for Mother's Day, I just want to encourage people to ask their mother what was it like and what made them happy, what were they sad about.
Just to learn some stuff that maybe you didn't ask before.
Gone,
yeah.
Huh?
Just stuff that you may not have asked. Yeah, you won't know that stuff, right?
The whole history is gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Is your mom still with you?
No, she said the worst thing that she regretted the only thing that she regretted in her life that she didn't learn how to drive a car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But,
Yeah.
My father was controlling and he didn't want her to. So.
Oh, there's some history in your family that your sisters picked up a part of who your dad is, then you can understand that a bit then.
Yes, I can. All right. Well, thank you so much. I think your show is great.
Thanks a lot for the call, Michelle, and I hope it's helpful. And you have a nice Mother's Day. You said you have a daughter, so you have a nice Mother's Day.
I thank you so much.
Okay.
You too.
Thanks a lot. Okay, take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye now. Okay, anybody else like to call in? The number is 203-336-9756. If you got something about your mom or about Mother's Day, something that you might like to share, 203-336-9756. So I have 3 daughters. 2 of them are mothers. And, of course, my own wife is their mother. And this is fortunate. One of our daughters had lived out of the country for a few years, and so we didn't get to celebrate a lot of holidays together. But we feel very fortunate that we're all going to be together this Mother's Day. We're all in a place where we are within driving distance of one another, and we're going to get together and spend some time. And the 2 daughters that have children, they're great kids. We have 4 grandkids. One daughter has a boy and a girl, and the other daughter has 2 boys, and they really enjoy being together, the cousins, and we love being with all of them. So I'm really looking forward to Mother's Day. And my wife, Barbara, if she's listening, you are a great mom and one of the best mothers. And I'm so thankful you're part of our lives. And I'm sure, and I know our daughters and our grandkids are too. Well, what else do you want to say about Mother's Day? You got something else you want to call me about and share? 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. I want to thank Mark and Michelle for calling in earlier. And if you've got something that you'd like to share about Mom's Day, I'd really appreciate hearing it. 203-336-9756. And if you're thinking about calling, Neil Young had a song when I used to play music on the show. Don't go away singing It Might Have Been. If you got something you think is worth sharing and you're not sure, just call and share it. I'm sure it's worth sharing. So again, 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. A lot of people over the years, this is 16 years I'm doing this show now. It's funny, when this all started way back when, 16 years ago or so, one of the colleagues here, another radio programmer who was in a class I was teaching on emotional intelligence organizations, his name's Lou Pomalis, and hopefully you've gotten to listen to his show. He's on the air on Sundays usually. And he's a great guy. He was in my class, taking a graduate class in emotional intelligence and organization. That was what I was teaching. And I was teaching people about this emotion roadmap. And Lou had this vision that, Chuck, it'd be great if you would be able to help people on the radio just the way you're helping us in class here by teaching people how to use this emotion roadmap you created. And I said, that sounds interesting, Lou. What would I have to do? And Lou worked really hard to make it happen. It's not easy to get a radio show on the air. And I thought, well, this is great. When it did happen, Peter Beauchene, who at the time was the general manager. Peter had this concept of a community strip where they'd have talk shows featured on the noon hour, noon to 1. And Peter said I could be one of them. Now, it didn't start with the community strip. It started with me on for a 3-hour time frame on I think once a month, Sunday or something. It's a long time ago, so I'm not sure I remember it exactly right. But anyway, I thought, well, okay, I'll try this for a while and see how it goes. I thought, well, maybe I'll do this a year or two and see what happens. And then the year or two went by and started to have a lot of people calling in and really liking the show. And people started to say, well, maybe you can be on longer. Anyway, I went to a couple times a month now, and it's now 16 years. Unbelievable. Okay, next caller. I'm about to answer the phone. Please make sure your radio's turned down. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Hey, Chuck. Yeah, this is Breck. How are you?
Hi, Breck. How you doing? I'm fine, thanks.
Good. I'm listening for a while today and brought up a whole bunch of memories of my mom. Thought I'd share just a couple.
Great.
And yeah, and for a start, it's a beautiful blue sunny day, and there are some clouds down at the edge of the horizon. And one of the things I remember, mom passed away about 20 years ago now, but I still have very, very fond memories of being a kid on an army blanket on a hill out behind the house up in Litchfield, Connecticut, and staring up at the sky. My brother was taking a nap, and we went out there, laid down on that hill, and stared up at these clouds floating overhead in the deep blue sky. And we started finding rabbits and crocodiles.
Yeah, how much fun is that? I love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
And I still, whenever I see big puffy white clouds floating by, I think of my mom. So
that's great.
That's one of the memories. There were a couple of other associations I thought I'd share.
Sure.
The interesting thing, I think, maybe from a deep point of view, is that I have memories that go way back, to very early, I think a year old, 2 years old. But at one point I was sitting meditating thinking, how far back can I really, go, with memories from, my parents and from my life. And I wound up in a space where I brought back somehow through cellular memory, I don't know what you would call it, a pre-birth memory, which was basically the sound of my mother's voice, this vibration, that is imprinted, into you, into every child, certainly,
wow. Okay.
Prior to being born.
Yeah.
And one of the things that my dad said, after my mom died, was when he was in World War II, he said he never heard any of the folks that he saw dying on a battlefield call for their dads. They always called for their mom.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Okay. And there was this thing where my mom was a big talker. Mm-hmm. She could circular breathe, according to my wife. You could not get a word in edgewise.
That's so funny. Okay.
When I was a teenager, I'd say, Mom, I got to take a break. I have to hit the bathroom, and she'd say, okay. And she'd just keep talking. And when I got back, she'd pick up the thread right where it left off, but it was, but I missed that. One of the things that I realized as I got older was that there was this constant flow of attention. She was always paying attention and always trying to communicate it. And, and I remember one long conversation on the phone where I was working in an upstairs room and looked out the window. There was this beautiful tree in the spring day, about like today, with, early green, shoots and leaves coming off of it and the wind fluttering around. And it was like the sound of my mother's voice and the flow of the wind across an eternal spring tree just both seem to blend together in a way, that I still, when I think of her, I think of her voice and I think of that tree.
That brings up memories for me as I'm listening to you, Brock. That sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes pretty deep. So I just wanted to say that, I thank you for the topic. it's brought up some really wonderful memories that I haven't thought about or shared for a while. And so I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, before you hang up, Rick, let me just say this to you, because this is a memory that just came up to me, because my mom was a talker too. In fact, she was the go-to person she was alive during cell phone time. So, whenever any of us were traveling on the road, we had a long ride, no matter what time of the day it was. My mom didn't sleep a lot, but she would talk to us as long as we were on the phone and in the car, and all the kids, the grandkids loved it, and so did myself, my brother, and our spouses and everybody. So one of the things that happened when she did pass away, it was really a strange thing, but I'm a birder, and I like to watch and look at birds and record their sounds and stuff like that. And so one day, my mom used to like in our home, we have a kitchen window that looks out, and I have bird feeders in the cold weather when the bears aren't out a lot, and we have birds that come by, of course. And she used to love to stand there and watch the birds come and eat at the feeders. And then one day, shortly after she was gone, 2 blue jays showed up. Mm-hmm. And usually when I walk over to the window and a bird would see me, they'd fly away. It just kind of scared them. Right. But this blue jay looked at me and then started chattering. and went on and on and on. And it just began to feel like, I'm not sure, and I get it, it's strange, but if you came back as a bird, Mom, this is great to see you. And my father was always much more quiet than my mom typically, unless he was trying to be the center of the party, which at times he did. But anyway, he was kind of sitting in the background looking and smiling, it looked like. And so so my story was to my kids afterwards was, I don't know, I think Mom might have come to visit.
For whatever it's worth, I've had similar kinds of experiences, and I do think that the natural world, and especially the creatures in it, can personify, and who knows? I don't fully understand how all that works, and it may very well be, the spirit of your mom, finding a way, a vehicle, to speak to you still.
Yeah, I really believe that at the moment, and I still do today. So, and the world has so many unanswered questions. When you have the deep questions, the religion and science, neither one of them answer. So anything's possible in my mind. Okay,
absolutely.
Well, thanks a million for the call, Breck. I really appreciate it. You take care.
Yeah, and thanks for generating the memories. I appreciate it, Chuck. Take care. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so maybe a few other people's got a few memories that you'd like to share. 203-336-9756. Again, thank you to Mark, Michelle, and now Breck. Again, 203-336-9756. So give you a minute. You got something about your mom that you can share? Anything, just something that's personal to you, something that you liked about it, something you're thinking about doing with your mom on Mother's Day. Just an idea that you might want to share that other people might think, hey, I'm wondering what to do on Mom's Day. For us, I think we might want to go to the beach. It looks like it's going to be we're in Connecticut, of course, in Bridgeport, Connecticut, but it looks like it's going to be one of the best days. Like today's a great day. But also on Mother's Day, it looks like it's going to be like 75 degrees or something. So we might go to the beach. With the kids. The kids like to play. There's a playground at the beach. There's a sand to dig in, run around. And then maybe have a picnic out there, something like that. So anyway, if you've got some thoughts that you can share, 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. I'll tell you a story about my mom. One of the things that my mom used to love to do was to play cards. And card playing is still something people do. I know there's all kinds of video games, and kids especially kids are spending a lot of time on screens. But one of the things that my mom taught us as kids was to play cards. Lots of card games. Steal the old man's pack, go fish. Anyway, we'd play gin rummy. We played lots of card games. And one of the things that one of the first card games I ever learned was a game of war, where you turn one card over at a time, and whoever's got the high card wins. And as my grandkids were starting to grow up, and even my kids too, but that's a long time ago now, but and more recently with my grandkids, when I play wall with them, when they were first learning about numbers, you had to learn numbers in order to know which number was higher. And so it was a great way to teach the kids about numbers. And they had so much fun learning about numbers and playing cards with us. And that's another memory I have from my mom, and another thank you to my mom for something that is a gift that keeps giving. Because, again, she did it with us, my brother and I, when we were kids. And then we did it with our kids. And then we each have done it with our grandkids, too. And it's something that the whole family can do together. So that's another nice thing that we do. We play cards together with our families when they're together. There's a lot of fun games that we play. And that came from my mom. So that's one of the nice things. One of the best things about my mom was that she was someone who really believed in being accountable, doing what you say you're going to do, and then holding other people accountable. There were times my mom didn't take prisoners. I learned to hold people accountable too. It's important. I think that, it's funny in life. Some people, think when you're going to be emotionally intelligent that it's about being nice. It's about being kind. It's about being respectful, empathetic, supportive. And of course it is all those things. But in the client work I'm doing in recent times, one of the people that we were talking with some people that were in this business. I mentioned it before on the radio. I'm working with a trucking company and a warehousing company out in Nebraska. I've been working on them for several years now on instilling emotional intelligence in the company and the way that they work with with each other, the way they work with customers, the way they work with vendors, the way they show up in the community. We're doing a lot of work together. But one of the things that showed up early on was when we were talking about it, one of the people said, I'm not really a feelings guy, but if you ask me what I want people to feel, I want them to feel accountable. Now, accountable doesn't sound like, if you want somebody to feel accountable, that doesn't sound nice, does it? And yet, accountability, if you think about it, it's one of the things that makes life work and makes life work well, is when you know the people that you work alongside are people that are going to be accountable, people that you can depend on, the people that do what they say they're going to do. My mom was about that. My mom was, she told you she was going to do something, it was going to be done. And if she said that I was going to do something, it was going to get done. So I learned about accountability as a young kid, and it's part of a work ethic. And one of the things, that happens in life a lot for people these days is, as you go through life, there's a lot of things that you don't get very good education or training for. Things like, for instance, how do I know when to ask the person I work for a raise? How do I know when to ask the person I work for, if it's a big company in particular, a promotion? When is the right time for that? Well, I can't tell you for certain when the right time is, because it's context-based. There's lots of things that are happening in the world that might be creating a lot of uncertainty. So obviously that might not be a great time. But one of the things I do know that is true, that I can tell you for certain, is that if you aren't being accountable for what you've been asked to do, then it's never a good time to ask for more responsibility, more money, or a promotion. And yet, on the other hand, if you are doing everything that you've been asked to do, and you've shown initiative and even asked to do more, and let the person you work for, and maybe some of your teammates as well, know that you're available to help them if anybody needs help, and if anybody needs something else done, because you've caught up and you're all set and you've got everything done that you needed to do. And if somebody's behind a little bit, you're happy to help out. People are going to come to you and think about you for being promotable. And if there is a raise, sometimes raises it's the same for everybody. Just people find it easier to do it that way. But if there is a real sense of merit-based raises in your company and people pay attention to who's doing what, the person or people that are being accountable, they rise to the top. They're the first ones that people think about. So accountability is like a really critical feeling. So as we think about what we want to feel, one of the things that my mom taught me is how important it is to be accountable. Okay, I'm about to answer the phone. Please make sure your radio is turned down. Thank you. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Hi, Chuck. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, I'm just calling to talk about my mother.
Sure. Did you want to give me a name I can use?
Yeah, her name's
No. Yeah, just your name, so I can talk to you and call you by your name. That's all.
Alan.
Alan.
Yeah,
Okay.
my name's Alan.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. So I got a cool story. My mother, she's a living saint. She's still alive, and she's in her 70s.
Uh-huh.
And just recently, she found out her birth mother is. She's adopted.
Oh, wow.
And it turns out her birth mother had another family, had her when she was young. She was unmarried. It was, a sad story. So she had to give my mother up.
Yep.
But it turns out that she lived only a few towns over, and she had a whole other family, two girls, and sadly she passed away. But we just found out who her half sisters are, and she finally was able to meet them a few weeks ago.
Wow.
And it's really cool to see the similarities between them, and and see them relate. And obviously, when she reached out to them, they thought, maybe this is like some kind of scam. Give me $5,000 and I can give you $50,000 or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
One of those Ethiopian princes or something. But anyway, so they met up, and the connection's there, and it's beautiful.
I'm really happy. I'm really happy that what a nice Mother's Day gift to find out that you have some.
Yeah.
I'm sure for all those years she didn't know and wondered if she'd ever know, and now to find out that she has some relatives that are, and they all live somewhat nearby.
Yeah, they're all nearby.
Wow.
So she has a whole new family. We do. I have cousins. I have 2 new aunts.
Wow.
She's finally getting to know that side of her. Like she knew she was Italian, but she never knew, like, her family that raised my grandparents. They were from Eastern Europe, Russian, and Polish. So they never did any like Italian traditions or anything like that. So
yeah, sure.
She's finally learning all these things that she never knew, and it's really cool.
Well, that's great. So you have a new set of relatives too, then, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And finally that hole, is being filled. And
well,
this will be the first Mother's Day that she actually, has that information. So I think she definitely deserves it.
That's a nice gift for your mother for Mother's Day, huh?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's a nice story, Alan. Thank you very much for calling up and sharing it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, well, you take care, and tell your mom congratulations for me. That's a great win.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, take care. Bye. Bye. Okay, so that was very nice. So, wow, that's quite a story, isn't it? Just to find out that you got family. I actually have a cousin that happened to recently too. It just, again, all these things bring up memories. I hope nice memories for all of you who are listening. I know everybody didn't call in that's listening, but I hope that it's generated some really warm and meaningful and hopefully really, really pleasant memories. And if your moms are still alive and are still, with you, and you've had some rocky road situations that have happened recently or maybe in a while that has caused some rifts in the family, I'd suggest that you think about, how do you want to feel, right? How do you want your mom to feel? If it's not what you want, is there some way to create what would be ideal to feel with your mom? What would be ideal for you to feel about your mom? What are you willing and able to do to make that happen? I hope this has inspired some of you to pick up the phone, or if it's someplace close by, to maybe go visit with your mom if you weren't planning on it already. We don't get a lot of chances in life to make things right with people that we love sometimes, but sometimes don't like very much for a variety of reasons. And I just think that, when you love somebody, when you're connected to somebody, when you're family, push past whatever differences you might have and try to find ways to stay connected that are meaningful to you and to them. So that's my show. You've been listening to the Emotion Roadmap, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel. I'll be back on next week. The show's the Emotion Roadmap, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel. I hope I've provided some ways for people to know how to feel and to think about it. And I know that we have Nick Jacobs coming up on what's sacred and profane. Nick's always got a great show, so I hope you enjoy listening to him as well. I guess the chance to be with you is always very special for me. So I appreciate all of you who tuned in and listened. I'm glad so many people, when you get a chance, tell me how much you like the show. Go on the WPKN Facebook page and let other people know about the show if you're a big fan, so that other people tune in and listen as well. Thanks again. I'll be with you next week, 12 o'clock, noontime Eastern. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. Bye-bye now.
For over 40 years, SCM
has been the voice of our town,
bringing us together through local programming,
education,
and live broadcasts.
SCM isn't just about television.
It's about empowering our community,
ensuring our voices are heard during government meetings,
and celebrating milestones
like our high school graduations.
But today, SCM faces a challenge.
Our funding structure is based on television subscriptions.
And it's no secret, people have been cutting the cord.
With a shift to internet-only subscriptions,
SCM receives less revenue,
even though all our programming is freely available online.
We need your support.
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 Your donation can make a difference.
It will ensure that SCM remains open,
continues to educate our youth,
and keeps our community informed.
Thanks to SCM, I've been honing my creative skills, helping me work towards my college degree.
SCM is crucial for keeping our community connected.
SCM isn't just here to broadcast local events. They're actually preserving Simsbury's history.
Join us.
Join us in preserving Simsbury's voice.
Simsbury's voice.
Together we can ensure that SCM continues to thrive
for generations to come.
Visit our website
or scan the QR code on your screen to make your donation.
Every contribution
counts.
Thank you for supporting Simsbury Community Media,
where your town,
your schools,
and your government
come together.